It reminds me of the drawing when I was in Mexico one time, and Bart Simpson was just getting popular in Mexico, and I got a Bart Simpson shirt, except it was Bart Sanchez. Because
wow,
because of copywriting, it was it was Mexican flea market. It looked exactly the same, but it was totally different because it was Bart. I was Bart Sanchez. Obviously, wasn't Bart Simpson.
They got you.
They did get me. Max Kellerman Stugotz was a bit of a child prodigy in broadcasting. Had a New York cable show on boxing that people sought out pre-internet as a teenager. And when I met him on the set of PTI for the first time, he declared himself the greatest public orator since Malcolm X. He's corrected me before. I thought it was MLK, but he was dead serious and was lamenting at the time a midlife crisis in his early 30s, how much more Jesus had done than he had by that age. and he was wildly successful, right? Because he had the ESPN show that was before Around the Horn, and then there was a Fox fight over him, and then he made IMAX. And so his career before the Fox ESPN wars, Max Kellerman was a prodigy. For his age, remarkable that he was doing national stuff. And so Mike and I were very disappointed when recently his foray into changing the medium now that he's been at ESPN and physically grayed down by Stephen A. Smith's Hot Air, that he would do a segment called To the Max. Mm-hmm. That he would be someone who thinks that the evolution of creativity as a child prodigy, as you're working through the Disney machine in your 40s as an adult who now has kids, is like, I'm going to change the form with To the Max.
It's 050 to the max, just so you know.
Well, but today, and yet it might sound to you guys, and I have to respect this because it might sound to you guys like mockery, but today I'm like watching the television and I'm like, holy shit, Max in this morning show just changed the game, changed it, because it's April and they had a segment I've never considered to have. And I'm like, has anyone done this before? This hasn't been done before. This is the first time this has been done. How is it possible? Real or not real?
Wow.
And they started with the Colts in April, real or not real. Now, I thought, I'm thinking to myself, well, the Raiders, I've been doing this for 15 years with the Raiders and there's never an answer. But I'm like, you could do this with other teams, and they proved it, because 7 minutes later in April, after talking about the Colts, they moved to the Chargers.
Wow. Questions about whether or not the Chargers are for real?
10 full minutes in April of real or not real on the Colts or Chargers, and I'm like, holy shit. They don't have to talk about Oklahoma City losing by 40 or 50 last night in their last game of the season, or Frank Vogel, saying they didn't tell me shit, is the quote from Frank Vogel as he's fired, which is exactly how it should end. Like that's how LeBron should end somebody this late in his career, with the coach. A coach who we've said looks like a man who keeps leaving for work in the morning for a month dressed in his suit because he's afraid to tell his wife he's lost his job. He has been fired as the coach of the Lakers. Adrian Wojnarowski, who for some reason has blocked our show, is reporting.
For some reason, you're confused by this?
Yeah, why?
Why? You've given audience to Amin El Hassan and his Woj takes. You're guilty by association. Dan, you lit the fuse, and you're wondering why there's an explosion?
I did not know that was Amin El Hassan related, because Amin El Hassan thinks that he got elbowed out. Look, man, those wars over at ESPN just netted Woj $7 million a year, and Schefter had a rough weekend. And he's had for a $9 million a year dude. He's had a rough year.
He steps in it. Yeah,
about 5 of these now.
Mm-hmm. This is a lot in the last year, but in the middle of the night, in a news dump, Lakers have fired Frank Vogel, and the quote that made me search Ballsack Sports, am I being punked here, was, they haven't told me shit. It was a direct quote. Real or not real? Colts and Chargers, 10 minutes they did it in April. I had to genuflect.
I think both are real. I mean,
I agree. The NFL is king, especially to ESPN.
But why in April? Like, it was a good sports weekend. Like, are we short on material if we don't talk about NFL subjects? And like, in particular, I guess the NFL subject would be the aforementioned very grim Dwayne Haskins subject. But like, just
you could go draft too.
Just like breaking down NFL teams and where they are in April. Like, the Masters was this weekend. It was the last weekend of the NBA. Like, it's a fun weekend with things to talk about.
Maybe they addressed that in the early segments,
Yeah.
but then they got down to brass tacks, which was real or not real.
I did want to ask you guys, because I don't know how this landed for you guys on Dwayne Haskins, but I did find what happened afterward to be worthy of commentary. I don't want to say this felt quite like Sean Taylor, because Sean Taylor was a homegrown kid and it was a life extinguished too fast and there was greatness on the field. And we kind of attacked Michael Wilbon back then and others who sort of put out there before facts were known that Sean Taylor was living a thug lifestyle. And we tend to respect these guys a lot more in death than we do in life for some reason, which bums me out. But Dwayne Haskins, the news arrives, and I felt it because, like, oh no, our streets took someone. It felt Sean Taylor-ish because it's like, oh no, that was hope. That was a life extinguished too fast. And then you've got the shocking, a dump truck? What, on 595? Like one of our, I mean, just 10 lanes of highway there. Who's running in the morning on that highway? And so you got 1,000 questions, and it's the thudding finality of what do you mean an NFL quarterback is dead? And what do you mean, furthermore, a dump truck? And so you feel senseless, hopeless. You can't apply sense to that. And so what do? Adam Schefter and Gil Brandt are called for comment, and they give you all they know about Haskins, which isn't very much. And in that moment, they get chased down and dragged rightly, correctly. They get dragged, the both of them. Gil Brandt, who was like building the Cowboys before Jerry Jones. Gil Brandt was old school Cowboys, and he put his voice at 90 years old in an interview to, well, draft bust, always get, like if he deserved it, always getting into trouble. It was always something with this guy, but he had nothing else to say. He knew nothing else of Dwayne Haskins. And Schefter wrote in a tweet, who struggled to catch on with Washington and Pittsburgh, an Ohio State standout. And it just made me wonder, as, you know, like Deadspin wrote, Gil Brandt melts microphone with awful Dwayne Haskins take, and then, comma, reminds people he's still alive. Deadspin doing to him what Gil Brandt did to Dwayne Haskins, but Gil Brandt is still alive. And it just makes me wonder, why can't we be this nice to these people when they're alive? Like, why is the respect for Dwayne Haskins and the vigilant protection of his humanity only available to us when it takes a dump truck, a 595, and it takes the thudding finality of death for you to, like, launch yourself at Gil Brandt and Adam Schefter? Because both of them, they got the dragging and they deserve the dragging. But I felt it's like, because we're all looking around, we can't make sense of this. This is senseless. Where can I put my anger? Please give me some place to put my anger, because this seems unfair.
There is no reason. First off, I'm confused as to why we're still going to Gil Brandt for anything. That's number one. Number two is,
but he was the most powerful. He's
90, I know, Dan, but he's 90 years old.
I understand. A lot of people are doing that, Stugotz. Forgive me for interrupting you.
Right.
I'm just telling you that this was the most powerful man, or one of the most powerful men, builder of the Cowboys, Tom Landry, and his voice is the reflection of an attitude of these are commodities to be moved around, and what is he? He's just a draft bust. He's somebody who was always getting into it. But forgive me, you're right. Why give him a microphone so he could say this? Both he and Schefter deleted that stuff. I don't know whether Schefter apologized. Gil Brandt apologized.
Well, there's no reason for Adam to point that out. The part that he struggled to catch on with Washington and Pittsburgh, meaning he struggled to catch on in the NFL, essentially, is what he's saying, because the story, obviously, is that Dwayne Haskins has passed away. He is no longer with us, and that's really all you need to say if you're Adam Schefter. So I understand why people would criticize that.
Agreed, 100% agreed. Nobody would. I don't think very many people would dispute that.
But to your point, if Gil Brandt and Adam Schefter attacked Dwayne Haskins and Haskins was still alive and playing in the NFL, meaning attacked his play, saying he wasn't a very good quarterback, he wasn't a responsible kid, people would not be going after Adam Schefter and Gil Brandt, because Dwayne Haskins, I say this respectfully, had not proven anything thus far in the NFL. I don't know why we do it, Dan. We did it with George Steinbrenner. We'll do it with other people. We don't say nice things to people while they're here. We say them, unfortunately, after they pass away.
I just think that's too absolute, okay? I don't think that's true of everybody, but I'm just asking you sincerely as you examine what happened here, which is the shock of our streets. We know, I mean, there's something about knowing where this person was, living around it, and having our streets extinguish this life and wondering to yourself, what the hell's he doing on that highway? And how a dump truck, and it doesn't make me go to nefarious places like what was he up to? Is there a simple explanation here? Did his car break down? Did he misread speeds? Like, what happened here? So there's the shock of it, and there's the lack of an explanation. And I know everyone listening to this is saying to themselves, oh my God, his whole life was ahead of him. Like, whatever it is you want to say about bust or struggling in the NFL, like, he's in his early 20s. He just got to the good stuff. Like, he's going to have the rest of his life, and then it's gone. And you're stunned, and you do what with that? You can just grieve it. Like, it just hurts. But you're also probably, because one of the stages of grief is, even if you don't know these people, is anger. Like, that's Schefter and Gil Brandt get an extra dragging of why give the 90-year-old man a microphone, or by Deadspin, reminds people he's still alive. And what is the age, Stugotz, that I'm taking away microphones? Because we've talked before about the aging of legends and how difficult this is. And Lee Corso has a stroke, and people are now really beating up Dick Vitale because they think his act has gotten old every time that he's on. And so I ask you, what is the age that you do that as Al Michaels approaches 80 and signs one of the most giant deals we've ever seen?
I'm not even certain the age matters. Does he know Dwayne Haskins? If he's 90 years old and knows Dwayne Haskins and can speak about Dwayne Haskins and his life, then I'm good with it. But why are we going to Gil Brandt, who is 90 and barely knows Dwayne Haskins at all?
Isn't it the need for news? Like, to me, the way that I heard that was just somebody called Gil Brandt because he's always available for football comment as a football voice. Someone asked him the question, because you have to ask respectfully. Someone has died here, and so a guest is on with us. We're going to talk to him about it, and I think Gil Brandt gave you the only information he had on Dwayne Haskins, which is the way these quarterbacks get smeared coming up through the draft by people who have had the power like Gil Brandt for a long time. And, of course, the lack of humanity in that at the moment of death pisses people off.
Yeah, you nailed it. He's a content generator even at age 90, and NFL-specific news. Hey, let's get someone to talk about Dwayne Haskins, and that's how mistakes get made, when you should just decline and say, I don't know what else to say other than this is a tragic loss.
Lamar Jackson went after Schefter this way. You lame as fuck. All around. Grown-ass man. And look in a mirror and smile at yourself. That's a pissed off Lamar Jackson, who was about that age, who was told he couldn't be a quarterback in that league, and saying to Adam Schefter, the reporter, like, that's, when do you see that from a quarterback? You lame as fuck.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with misplaced anger. People are angry, sad, emotional, and they want to place some of that somewhere. If it wasn't Adam Schefter, it'd be somebody else. It was a mistake, and Gil Brandt apologized for it. I'm not sure about Adam. I know he deleted the tweet. He has apologized in the past for Twitter missteps, most recently with the Deshaun Watson stuff.
There are a lot of people calling for his firing. It's not a quiet group of people.
He's not going to get fired.
No, but I'm just no. I know he's not going to get fired. No, but I'm just telling you guys that I find interesting that the anger ends up getting there very quickly.
Yeah, I can actually. I saw that tweet as it happens because I have them set to notifications, and I was like, ooh, bad luck. And I immediately saw how Adam Schefter, who it's cold to say, but in that moment is in news gathering mode, is in news breaking mode,
and it makes you a robot. It makes you a bit. It actually.
I'm not
makes
making
you
excuses for him.
But that's throwing in an opinion that's not necessary with that report.
It's not an opinion. I don't think I mean, I think that's
it's
pretty
an unnecessary
factual.
fact.
He threw in 2 facts,
but
which
it's unnecessary. That's all.
I'm not defending his actions, but he threw in 2 facts, which is Ohio State standout. Absolutely, he's an Ohio State Buckeye legend, and he's failed to catch on in the pros. It should have been omitted in the tragic in releasing the tragic news of his passing. And if you want to include that in an article. Maybe other people did actually include it in
in the
articles.
New York Times, it was the 4th or 5th paragraph of the obit. Like that, it was in the obit of the New York Times. And again, Urban Meyer came out with, son and teammate and has some family access. The people who are commenting don't. They don't know who this person is. He's a person who died. And that was his resume. And that was not a time for the facts on the resume when the resume is disappointing.
You don't always have to say something other than RIP. If I told you in that moment, give me 20 seconds on Dwayne Haskins, probably you go 10 seconds before you say he was drafted by the football team. It didn't work out over there. And you end up stepping in it. If you feel the need to actually give content in all those moments, you're bound to step in it. I'm not absolving Adam Schefter. I think he very clearly learned a lesson. I'm hoping there isn't a 6th incident that takes some change going there, because he's really missed the mark, especially with the Deshaun Watson thing. Which I look at this, I see that's a genuine mistake. It's cold, and it's certainly not the time for it. I thought the bigger, if I'm shopping on the most recent Adam Schefter controversies, I thought that the Deshaun Watson thing spoke to a much larger problem.
I think more interesting than that, as Woj blocks us, is that you have the insider sausage being revealed to you as these guys sign the mega deals. Like, so that oh, look, this is information access brokering. There's some compromises made. It's a fairly startling thing to have in public as the free agent wars start, and Adam Schefter is telling Peter King, yeah, I could have made a lot more money from the gambling companies, but I went back to ESPN cheap because I really like the comfort of ESPN, and ESPN will keep lending him credibility no matter how many of these there are, because ESPN keeps putting him on television, and most of what he gets is right in a business when you got to kind of get it right all the time. You're not allowed to make those kinds of mistakes. Like, this has been a rough year for him. He's had like 4 or 5 of these where you're like, oh my God, cringeworthy.
And he's considered industry leader too. He doesn't have a really good, decent contender to the throne, not like Woj has in Shams. Shams is coming for him, and Shams breaks. If you're looking at the balance of stuff, it could be 50-50 at times during the most newsy periods of time. Adam Schefter is the news-breaking industry in the NFL for the most part.
Ryan Clark, who works for ESPN and played for the Steelers, said that Adam Schefter reached out to him. He tweeted about this, said that he apologized to him multiple times. He's trying to get in touch with the family to apologize to them.
Ian Rappaport, I know Jay Glazer sort of does that less and less. I feel like Jay Glazer could do that job, but has decided for his sanity, it's probably not the thing he wants to be doing, is breaking all the news all the time. Because I'm telling you, it's a crazy existence. Like, these guys get devoured by the obsessive compulsive need to be first on everything, and you're competing against every beat writer in every market to get the information first. And it doesn't Rappaport break a good amount of news?
Yeah, it's difficult when people are working for the NFL, but that's where Schefter came from too. Rappaport breaks some news, and I'm with you. Glazer could be the guy if he wanted to be the guy to challenge Adam Schefter. He doesn't prioritize Twitter outside of rare occasion. He gives his thoughts on Fox TV, which pays him the biggest check.
Let's segue to something a little bit lighter here if you want to be mad at something that someone said.
There's plenty of that this weekend.
Well, John Hollinger, did you see what John Hollinger said?
Wow, he wasn't even on my list.
Who's on your list?
Wow.
Oh, my God. Stephen A. Smith. Jalen Rose not on my list anymore. Thank you so much. The TNT crew.
Well, you want to tell? Well, hold on a second. What did Stephen A. Smith say? Did he besmirch your Heat? Are these all
he said
Heat
if I'm the
related?
Nets, I want to play. Yo, these are certainly all you're
All right,
talking
well-
to. It's
well,
playoff time.
Okay, well, before you get to your playoff time, and I do miss the Pitbull playoff song that we're not going to be able to play anymore.
I got sanctioned by Twitter because I had that video saved. And I get excited. It's that time of year where I tweet out the entire video, which is one of the greatest pieces of content ESPN ever put out. It was Timber reworked into playoffs. Shout out to Kesha and Pitbull.
With minimal other work other than just putting
Playoffs
playoffs in there.
Turn up.
I mean, it worked. You can't dispute. You cannot dispute that it worked.
It was incredible, and I just tweeted out the entire video several years after the fact, and I got a copyright infringement, and I learned my lesson now. So only stills.
Do you know what John Hollinger said before we get into people?
What did this guy say?
What
did this failure in Memphis say?
Before we get to all of the people who have smeared the Heat because you saw Milwaukee pretty actively avoided the Nets.
Smart.
They still need the Celtics to win it.
The defending champions, though, said, you know what? Nah. Yeah, I don't want to play. Nah. I don't
They almost lost to him last year.
I don't want to do all that again.
Who would choose that over Cleveland? Like, it's
Nobody.
obvious.
Well,
Nobody.
I
Like, Woody
would.
keeps doing this thing. They don't play defense. They have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, okay?
Yep.
We don't want them in the first round. I know the Heat fans want to do this thing like, we'll take them. We're not afraid. Okay, we're not afraid, but we'd prefer Cleveland.
Here's the thing that I would say more honestly, though. This is where I get in trouble with the Heat fan base all the time because I'm like, I will take them. Let's go. Bring them on. And I'm afraid.
Well, you're weird. You like want
afraid. Yeah, it's
You're weird. You want to be afraid.
But
He's into being afraid, man.
I'm choosing it. I'm like, yes, because I don't want to talk about the Cavs. No.
You're into that kinky shit in sports, man. You want to be in pain the whole time.
I
This
do.
is weird.
I watch the whole thing on mute, and I'm in, and with a ball gag.
We're down
yes.
10-0 in the first quarter. Oh.
John Hollinger says that Kevin Love, this escalates. Kevin Love is 6th man of the year, and that it's a fairly obvious pick. This award is not for a backup guard who jacks up the most shots. A direct shot at Tyler Hero.
That's strange because Tyler Hero's been good. Like not like efficient good, not just like
Team's leading scorer good, Woody.
He's not Jamal Crawford. Like this is a player who is incredibly efficient, and is a really good 3-point shooter. Like I don't understand that one. And like Kevin Love, he had I think he set the record for most points off the bench in a 15-minute appearance for Cleveland recently, but he's also had times where he has not been in on this Cleveland thing at all. He has not been on coming off the bench at all. I don't think Tyler Hero should be eligible for 6th man of the year. That's a different story, but like it's weird to say that Tyler Hero is a bad player in comparison to Kevin Love.
Bullshit. But honestly, not even nearly as mad listening to that as I was with Stan Van Gundy. Did you see his top 2 all-defensive teams?
Oh, no.
Have you even heard the name Herb Jones? Because he had Herb Jones on one of his defensive teams. He didn't have Bam Adebayo on one of his 2 defensive teams. He had Herb Jones.
I cannot respect the basketball skills.
Wikipedia tells me is an American professional basketball player.
If your name is Herb Jones, there's a ceiling on how good you can be as a basketball player.
You're a good defender. That's about it. Yep.
I don't believe Herb Jones has ever been better than the 10th player on a roster. That no one named that Herb Jones, the ceiling for someone named Herb Jones is you get to be the 10th best player on an NBA roster, and you are on the Mount Rushmore of Herb Joneses. You're one of the greatest Herbs we've ever seen.
You could argue that Herb Jones is in some ways underrated. If he's like, I don't know where Stan put him. Did Stan put him on his 2nd team? Maybe if his name wasn't Herb Jones, he'd be like 1st team. He'd be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. He has a lot to overcome with his name.
His name has him as like the 6th man on the Kentucky Colonels of the ABA. Disgusting stuff from Stan Van Gundy. And I'm pretty sure he just did that Chris Carter, Calvin Johnson thing where he forgot.
I saw a Pro Football Fantasy Focus, it was PFF. They did a fantasy top 11 running backs, and Nick Chubb wasn't on it. And I'm
They
they just forgot.
They
They
Look
just
at you
forgot.
clicking on that article.
In
you
April.
clicked on it, you're like,
How
let's
about
go.
that?
How do you forget, though? How do you forget? You can't be Pro
Did you agree?
Football Focus. I was enraged. Where's Nick Chubb? He's clearly in the top 5.
I will say, though, there's Stan Van Gundy, there's Shaq, there's John Hollinger. I'm most mad at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Uh-oh.
What
Our life partners over at DraftKings Sportsbook still, to this day, have the Miami Heat at plus 475 to win the Eastern Conference. And I thought out of all the sports book, I could trust them. You have a situation now where, and I don't know if you guys learned the NBA play-in rules, but I thought after 3 years, I thought it was finally time to figure out what this all means because it affects the Miami Heat.
Yes.
All right.
But this is funny because
I've been waiting
I
for
swear
this.
to God, I had no idea.
Mike, I am right. I am right with you on this. Where I have not paid attention to any of the play-in stuff, and as recently as last week, I could have been tricked into thinking the Nets were going to be the 8th seed. I twice it happened during one show where people had to correct me on, "Hey Dan, the Nets will probably be the 7th seed."
So what happens now?
So now the Nets host the Cavs, and the
Right.
winner of that game gets the 7th seed. That's 7 versus.
They're in.
They are.
Okay.
In. They
All
are.
right.
Well, the winner of that.
The
game
winner of
is
that
in.
game is in.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which more than likely should be the Brooklyn Nets because they're hosting. So if that's the case,
Unless Brooklyn wants Miami.
yeah, and then the winner of
Kyrie Irving, 15 for 20 yesterday.
Which I would. If I were the Nets, I would want Miami. I would. I'm just saying, I would want Miami.
You sound like Stephen A. Smith.
I'm
brother.
sorry.
You're on my list.
Oh no!
Yeah.
What have you done?
No, I if they get Boston as a 2 seed, because Boston beat Memphis and Milwaukee avoided the 2 seed, then they get a Boston team, the Nets do, presumably, that are missing Time Lord, and that's going to be a difficult matchup, and we'll see what happens there. But then the loser of the 7-8 game,
And Heat fans also feel good about the Celtics being tested. This is what cowards you are, Chris Cody. You feel like you want the Nets to really beat up the Celtics and challenge them as you actively avoid the next.
That's right.
Scared.
So in this scenario, in which we're all assuming that the Nets beat
But
the
safe.
Cavs, then they'll take on the winner of the Hawks-Hornets game, and that's winner go home. The winner of that game becomes the 8th seed and plays Miami. So you could have a situation where a team like the Atlanta Hawks, who wouldn't have made the playoffs but made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, get the 8th seed, and I think that would be really exciting because Miami has home court advantage throughout all the games there because Atlanta's Miami Heat town.
That's a good debate. Who do you want to play, Hawks or Cleveland?
The Hornets.
See that? Okay, yeah, I'm with you actually.
You want a Plumlee. You want a Plumlee. You want
Plumlee
Isaiah
in the
Thomas.
first round.
You'll take your chances with LaMelo Ball.
I think I want the Hawks because that'd be more fun.
They don't play.
Look
well,
at you. You're like
well,
Dan now. You're trying to be dangerous.
No, but Charlotte plays fast. You say fun. I mean, the Hawks. Why are the because of Trey?
No, because the home crowds for Atlanta are terrible when the Miami Heat play because it's basically a Heat home crowd. It'll be exciting. Trey's going to be exciting. They'll probably steal a game or two. It's a team that made it to the Eastern Conference
I'm
Final.
convinced.
It's
I want the
tested.
Hawks.
Well, no, Chris.
It's a little dangerous, but not that scary.
Well, but I want to ask you. I mean, the Hawks made it deep last year, and they've been playing. They're healthier, and they've been playing well the second half of the season.
They went to the conference finals last year.
It'd be exciting.
But Chris, I want to ask you this question. Do the playoffs now start for you with this Nets-Cleveland game, and then the fear as well starts for you because you're just watching that game hoping that the Nets win? The playoff fear starts for you right now, and you're watching that game with your only interest is please Nets don't win.
Well, no, I want the Nets to win this first game, right?
Or
I want
don't
them to
lose,
get
rather.
this.
Don't lose.
Right.
You
You
I'm
want
gonna
the
be
Nets to win.
Such a
lose-
big Nets fan.
Yes.
If they lose,
then I
they're-
want them to lose again.
then you need them to lose again. But so you're looking at an NBA playoff right now. The NBA, I also learned this with certainty. They don't reseed their brackets. How about that? They don't do what the NFL does. It's amazing things.
You've
I
known
learned about
that,
the
though.
NFL. No, they don't
No?
reseed.
No, but he's just paying
They don't
attention
reseed.
because the Heat are the 1 seed now, and he's teaching
First
a
time since 2013, so I gotta
professorial
refresh.
class on the play-in games because he's just now bothered to pay attention for the first time in 3 years, which puts him ahead of me because I have not been paying attention. I don't care that much. Just tell me who they're playing, and please let it be the Nets so I can poop myself.
I'm here to help all of you. So you can nod in agreement saying you knew that when you really didn't. So here we go. The Miami Heat then would only have to play presumably Cavs or Hawks because we're all giving the Nets credit. And then the winner of Raptors-Sixers. And I know the Sixers are favored to win that series. I don't know why. Because everything that I've read since we had the hyperbolic reactionary shows after they played 2 games against the Knicks that we thought this was the greatest.
That was
team.
all my doing.
Yeah, this is not a good situation for Philadelphia. Tybal's out for this series. It seems as though they got a foot in Cabo.
But you still rather face the Raptors.
I would not.
Joel Embiid.
I would
not.
much rather face Fred Van Vliet
Thank
than Joel
you.
Embiid
No.
and James
I
Harden.
get what
yes,
you're saying.
I would.
Everything you guys are
Mike,
saying
you would too.
makes
No.
sense. Defensive ratings,
Nope.
bad, not coming together as a team. I don't care.
Mike is enraged right now. Mike wants the Sixers. He wants to end their season. He hates Philadelphia and he wants to end their season because that team is vulnerable.
That I
On
can
no
agree
part
with.
of the Raptors.
No, but he's doing the thing where he's like, I'm not scared of them. They're a good team.
No, they're not. They're not. They're not a good team. They're not as good as the Toronto Raptors, and I am putting my quid on the Raptors that series. I've spoken to plenty of people in the NBA that tell me this might even be a quick series. Zach Harper of Cinephobe says Raptors in 5.
But everyone's saying things right now. This is
Zach
saying
Harper
things.
of a
Cinephobe. I
movie
love that.
podcast that
Yes.
rates that
What's
reviews only movies. Well, it reviews.
He also works for
movies,
the Athletic and he does have.
But
I've been told he has NBA roots.
you did not call him Zach Harper of the Athletic or Zach Harper, one of the 12 anointed, knighted people in the Twitter sphere who are believed to really know their basketball. You made him the guy who hosts a podcast with Amin Elhassan, who got us blocked by Adrian Wojnarowski, that tries to ascertain whether Rotten Tomato ratings of 40 have been properly rated or overrated or underrated.
I think you needed. Did he say ascertain?
No, I did not.
He didn't say
Yeah.
ascertain.
Yeah.
I thought I said
Yeah.
ascertain.
No, there was no
Yeah.
ascertain that was said there by you, so let me do it.
If you
Ascertain.
actually,
Okay, thank you.
if you
You're
listen
welcome.
to last week's episode of Basketball Illuminati, which most of you have, Dan very clearly didn't, there was great insight on exactly what's going wrong with the Philadelphia 76ers, all the infighting, all the pointed fingers, Doc blaming James Harden for losses, even though James Harden facilitates and plays well. He's got one foot in Cabo, the other foot in possibly Los Angeles. It would be the Lakers head coach or even Utah Jazz head coach. Basketball Illuminati opened up a lot of third eyes with that episode, Dan.
Doc Rivers, there's now a job available with the Lakers as well because Frank Vogel again was quoted, and this was not incorrect. The quote was, "Nobody's told me shit." I want to ask you guys something else that's Heat related because Dwayne Wade has put a quote out there while saying that Eric Spoelstra should be coach of the year. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald texted me and said, "We would be remiss if we were not analyzing this as a show." Dwayne Wade's quote is that Eric Spoelstra has coached his face off this year.
Wow.
When is he ever going to win a Coach of the Year?
This is it.
When?
This is his year.
I'm
Yes.
stunned, Roy, that's where you took that
Did he coach
Yep.
his face off?
quote, that you really got outraged. I'm stunned. I'm floored. That,
I'm tired, Dan.
that you
I'm
want a
happy.
coach of the year for Eric Spoelstra instead of imagining him receiving the award with no face. Because
he coached it off.
I don't
Yes,
even know
yeah.
what that means to coach so much, that your face just falls off.
They always want to do this thing where they give it to some hot shot upstart that comes in with few expectations. But what were the expectations for the Miami Heat this season? Certainly wasn't winning the Eastern Conference. Well, we're going to give it to a coach that's going to get fired in 3 years. That's a Surrey arc for this award, people. That is. Give it to one of the greatest of all time. Your league itself said he was one of the top 15 coaches of all time. Give him McCoy.
I mean, the Grizzlies coach did a better job.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
No, what seed are they?
I mean, the 2 seed.
Yep.
They have a better record.
Nope. Win your conference.
Better point differential.
Win your conference.
People expected the Heat to be in the playoffs. I mean, at
Also,
the very
you're going
least.
to do this thing. Let me tell you something. That Grizzlies head coach will be fired in 4 years.
What about ism over here?
Do you know his name?
I don't think you can.
It's not
I don't.
Jaeger.
I
Is
think,
anyone? I
QB Brown?
put it on the poll,
mean, we can
please.
go around this
I
entire
think it's
room.
Lionel
No,
Hollins.
Please put it on the
Lionel
poll.
Hollins' final answer.
Is Jaeger still the
in.
Memphis coach?
Jaeger.
I think it's Lionel. Gotta be.
This is terrible. This happened to me the other day.
Who was a former Coach of the Year winner
you
when we
guys-
did this shit? We do this shit with Memphis every 3 years.
Do you guys know who's coaching the Saints at the moment?
Yeah, Dennis Allen. It's the NFL. I know everything about the NFL. I can tell you their tie-breaking procedures. I can tell you exactly how their playoffs work.
I still don't know who the Broncos head coach is.
Ooh.
I dare you.
Wow.
I dare you to name
Nathaniel
the Broncos.
Hackett.
Oh,
Excellent.
come on.
Yes.
You know why I know that?
Because it's
Because
the
he
NFL.
calls it's the NFL, and he calls touchdowns he calls them Tugaliciouses.
What?
Yeah,
What?
called the touchdown the Tugalicious.
Huh?
Nathaniel Hackett, ladies
What?
and gentlemen.
Ooh.
Put it on the poll, please, Chris Cody. Calling the coach of the year coy. Douche or no douche?
I love it.
It's just awful.
Not Tugalicious.
Tugalicious, I will allow. Tugalicious is wonderful. Tugalicious will now embed the name Nathaniel Hackett in my brain. I've already forgotten about Vic Fangio.
Who's the Vikings head coach?
Ooh,
I know.
have no clue.
Wow.
No. Kevin is it Connell or Donnell? Ooh.
It's a tough one.
Oh, is Kevin O'Connell? Was he an Entourage? I'm gonna go Donnell.
It's Connell.
Oh, man.
Wait, was Kevin O'Connell an Entourage? He was. No, Kevin O'Donnell is the actor. No, wait.
Kevin Connolly is the
Kevin
actor.
Connolly. Damn it.
You're close.
Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day.
Stat of the day is presented by our friends over at ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
A raging roar of debate just made its way sweeping through the room. Homer Mike Ryan is about to be exposed for all of his "the Heat are the greatest no matter what" takes. But Legion Hoops, Stugotz, gives you the stat that since 2017, Dirk Nowitzki has played more games than John Wall. Dirk Nowitzki retired in 2019. John Wall signed the Supermax that year.
That's fantastic.
That has to be one of the worst contracts in the history of sports, right?
I mean, it's pretty shocking to think of what Dirk looked like at the end. Like, do you remember Dinosaur Dirk plodding around there at the end? He retired in 2019, and since 2017, he's played more games than John Wall. Whittingham, do you want to finish the Mike Ryan Homer argument? Because Roy was looking up, it was Pro Basketball Reference, Roy?
Yes, sir.
Do you know, Mike, what the Heat, the over-under on what the expectation for wins this season were for the Miami Heat?
No, was that retooled? Because they missed a lot of games from their starters.
But 48.5 was the number before the season started. And
yeah.
Memphis's was 41.5. Memphis won 56 games. The Heat won 53. Clearly, Memphis is more of a surprise, and that award always goes to the surprise.
Which is what I'm lamenting. Because it always goes to the surprise. And then if you look at the history of the winners, there's a lot of bad coaches on that list. And it should just go to Eric Spoelstra. And if it's not going to go to Spoelstra this year, a season in which he coached without a face, then when is it going to happen? Because if they're good again next year, they're certainly not going to give it to him next year. This had all the makings. A surprise top seed in the Eastern Conference. So for an Eric Spoelstra team to actually surpass expectations, and it's going to go to the Memphis guy. Is it Lionel Hollins? It is Lionel Hollins.
It's Dave Yeager. Hubie Brown,
Fizdale.
somebody threw out there. Oh, Fizdale, nice.
Yeah.
Another one of those. That boy.
Yeah, Fratello.
Bizarre.
But, Mike, what are you doing here? Because Coach of the Year is
Homer.
usually a good coach. I mean, Nick Nurse, Budenholzer twice,
Keep going down. Keep going down.
Popovich, Carl, Thibodeau again, Scotty Brooks.
Scotty Brooks and Thibodeau again. So Thibodeau's won it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won it last year because we couldn't stop talking about the Knicks, even though Monty Williams deserved it.
Monty Williams deserves it this year.
Deserves it again.
Yeah, probably.
Can you guys believe that the Lakers had a better over-under than the Suns?
That's wild. That is insane.
They won almost twice as many games as the Lakers.
You want my non-Homer rankings? It should go to Monty Williams, number 1, Lionel Hollins, number 2, and then Spo, number 3. But I'm doing it's a local hour. You coach it without a face.
You're allowed to do that. I want to get back to that portion
If you coach
of it.
without a face, you should should win the award.
Put it on the
Yes,
poll, please,
yes.
Chris Cody. If you coach without a face, should you assure yourself some extra Coach of the Year points? And I do want to understand. Also, put this on the poll. Who do you want in a game for your life? The coach who coaches his face off, or the coach who coaches his ass off?
Wow. Game for your life?
Well, Dwayne Wade has set his face off, it's not something I've heard before, and I don't understand it. And I think he's just trying to elevate that you can coach a bunch and then your ass falls off, and that's one thing. That's deeply caring.
Right.
But if you coach so much that your face falls off, it seems to me that you care more than the guy who just coaches enough that his ass falls off.
It's a great point because plenty of guys have coached their asses off.
So many guys.
No one has ever coached their face off.
Has anyone ever coached their dick off?
Huh.
Mike Vrabel almost.
Yes. Almost.
Oh yeah, almost. Yeah.